Hello everyone, today I'm working on these lifelike FA1s, A and B unit. The B unit is actually the one that's in the better shape. It's got the rear coupler missing the front one, and it's got all its little ladders, so that's good news. And the paint appears to be okay, not perfect but okay. And the A unit, it's got a little bit of a chip here, and one of the ladders is broken on this side. Also missing the front coupler, but definitely worth fixing. So if you'd like to own this, I'll be putting them on my website at the end of the video. It's watchtrainsnow.com. Through my many travels and purchases, I acquired the ER models boxes with inserts, and they happen to fit the FA1 very well. So if you got some ER models, they are great. And if you don't have one, I wish you can get one. So that comes with the insert, and there's a little baggie here which has the horns for the it's got the horn for the both horns, actually both horns for the ER models EF16. So these, I'll put them back in the package. So if you decide to purchase this, I will be giving this package, the ER models boxes with it. All right, so let's look into these. So the shell removal, it's not stuck in there too bad. Just have to be careful for the little ladders, but they usually pop out pretty easily. Now this is a little bit dirty. I'll show you some of the details of this. They're a little bit dirty, so we have to really get in there and clean them well. I'll use my little screwdrivers to give me a little extra slack. It's only this dimple that holds it into the shell, so just need a little bit of slack and bring it over that dimple. That should not be too hard. You don't want to pull too hard on these trucks. Or maybe this little plate here is blocking me. Yes, it was blocking me a little bit. So this is not how these are supposed to look, but when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, I guess. So I'm gonna see what I can do to make this work for me. Yeah, before I go and yank everything out, this probably works. I'm gonna test it out, and if it works, I'm gonna keep it. Yes, it does work, and very neatly. I really like these. These very similar to a Kado F unit, and they do work. Look at that, the light works. So that it's odd that it does, because they're not supposed to look like that, but that works very nice. So it's also directional, works very nice. So I'm gonna keep this set up. As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So definitely someone's been in there, but since this works so nice, I'm gonna keep it. That looks like it came from an Atlas or a Kado. Could be anything. These have been used in many engines. And then I put a little bit of isolation there, so I'm keeping that. That worked very well. And then this is where the circuit board should be, the original circuit board. He just made a little patch panel. This is all okay. And then the little plate that was blocking me, which was glued in there, probably part of a microtrains conversion kit. So that too, I'm definitely keeping that. These are really neat. The number boards, they actually light up. So that's all very cool stuff. I'm keeping all of this. Not making too many changes to it. I will have to add the front coupler, and I'm keeping the rapidos in the back. No need to change that. It actually ran very well on the test. Let's go see how it runs on the track. So let's see what we got. Actually runs very well. These make a little bit of noise. And this one's uncharacteristically quiet. Well, now I'm curious, is the B unit quiet too? Let's find out. Let me just put some power on it. It's a little dirty, I think. Definitely needs a good cleaning. But it sort of kind of wants to go. So all right, let's get to work on that. First note, probably it's so quiet because it's got a few miles on it, which is not necessarily bad actually. I like them to run quiet like that. And then the other note is if you want to change them to DCC, you have to mill the frame. This is one that I bought years ago. I didn't like it. I didn't like the DCC conversion. So you have to isolate the motor and add power pickups somehow for your decoder. But it can be done. So you have to mill the frame here to have room for your decoder. So for me, I didn't like it. So I just tossed it aside and took a B unit to power my good loco. Okay, so we're gonna clean this. We're gonna start by splitting the frame. These fuel tanks, they come out pretty easily. There's a little space to pry underneath there so you don't damage anything. So take your time, as always. It's not a race. Gonna put my nail back there so it doesn't pump back into its place. But these usually pretty easy to remove. And then we're gonna undo these two screws here, and that will release the trucks. I am going to retain the order that they were in because this was a good runner. Oh, this one's tight. Yeah, it's a split frame, very similar to Atlas and Kato, and these are good runners. So I'm keeping the order that they were in. I want to keep that, so I'm taking care to leave it like that. This being painted black, I don't remember my other units having this, so maybe it was customized by somebody, or that little light works so well, I'm almost ready to believe that this was one of the later versions, and it was an improved version. So that's possible. I don't know 100%. I've never seen that before, I can tell you that. So then you just have your two worm gears and your motor. Pretty simple to work on, just like the split flame Atlas or Kato. Plenty of lubrication, and I can feel it that it's attracted a lot of dust and dirt. In fact, it's dirty enough that I'm gonna have to wash the frames very carefully. I just go basically with my toothbrush and some dish soap, and then I wash everything. I am gonna start by getting the shell washed. The water and the soap, it messes with the electrostatic barrier that holds a lot of this dust on it. This fan at the top is especially interesting. It's actually two parts. There's a fan casting, and there's a cover casting that goes on top of it, so that looks really good. On the actual scale version, actually got a working fan inside. I like these little printing in the back. They did a good job on these. You can see extra detail. You know, there's windshield wipers they tried to do. Like I said before, the number boards light up. So that's gonna dry here, and I'm gonna start by washing the two frame halves using the same technique. And before I wash these, I will remove these two little insulators. That you need them. You know, while you're lubricating your engines, you got to use a little bit of judgment, because if you put too much lubrication like this, it actually attracts dust and dirt. So you want to lubricate it, but you don't want to overdo it. Now that feels good to the touch. All the dirt is gone. So while I'm working on the trucks, these will have a chance to dry. Perfect. So cleaning my drive is well on its way. I'm gonna do the paint touch-ups now, because that'll give them time to dry before I'm done. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mix some of these cheap Walmart or dollar store acrylics. I'm gonna use the hunter green and flat black, about half and half, and we'll see what that does. I'm not gonna need a ton, just enough to do touch-ups. The Brunswick green, it looks almost black in the pictures. So I'm gonna let this, I'm gonna do a little patch here, I'm gonna let this dry, and then we can compare it. Okay, so let's compare that. Here I put 50-50, that was too dark. This one I went 33 black and then 66 green. This one here I went 25 black, 75 green. I think that's gonna be good for what I need. So I'm gonna get to work on that. Yeah, that looks very close. So it does need, this is the worst of it here. It does need a little bit everywhere, like these the hatch hinges have to do. A little bit of paint goes a long way. Now I'm gonna take care of the rest. The motor, I don't think the motor needs any lubrication. Look at that, it's got the same style of cradle as the Kato F7s. That's crazy how much they copied them. Or F3s, F7 or S3s. So these, when you put it back together, make sure they're at their correct spot. But I don't think it needs any lubrication. Same for the worm gears, they look pretty clean. But I always put just a little drop just to say I did something since I got it opened. Just one drop, that's all you need. Just like the paint, you don't want to put too much paint, even though I made some very close matching paint. There's a little blotch here, and I think if I paint over that, it's gonna make it look worse. So I'm gonna use restraint on that and just let that be and use it like that. And then we can do the wheels. That is my favorite part, doing the wheels. So now there's a little hair on there, can you see it? That's gonna have to go. Oh, there's lots of dirt in here. Look at that. That looks like scenery foam. Hey, it happens to the best of us. And then these contact strips, sometimes they get packed with stuff. That happens. That's just because somebody's been running it. That's not the end of the world. These, I just clean them with my fingers like that. And that's always been good. They had a lot of lubrication on it. I don't lubricate these much. And since I won't be cleaning them with soap, whatever lubrication was on there, it's gonna stay. That's my screwdriver that hit the floor. So yeah, just a little lubrication, almost nothing. And then the wheels come out. And this one, for some reason, was really quiet. But everything seems to be good with this. Beautiful. So I'm just gonna wash this with some dish soap and my toothbrush. Same with the wheels, but before I do, I will clean them with my rag. Clean them with my rag. This is a good design. It's a plastic. Oh, look at that. That was nasty. The plastic in the middle that holds the gear is hollow, and there's a tiny little metal shaft that runs through the whole plastic cover. And that makes the wheels roll very straight. It's a, well, same design basically as Atlas and Kato. Oh, this is dirty. Yeah, you may not need to do that every week, but this one's been running a while. Oh my God, it's so dirty. I have a little problem here with my axle. Look at that, that's not good. That, however, is not the end of the world. I think I'm just gonna put a little bit of crazy glue on there. But that's not an excuse not to clean it. So I'm gonna clean it good, because this does bring a power to the locomotive. So, oh yeah, it was very dirty. Yeah, just put a little bit of crazy glue on it. Hopefully that will make it work. This other side is good. I'm gonna wash everything, including the side frames. The side frames get washed. I'm gonna put just the tiniest amount of CA on there. You definitely don't need a lot. And then I've got my Microtrains gauge handy. which will help me make sure that I get everything just right. Oh yeah, now that looks pro. So I'm gonna give this time to set. Then we'll check the gauge for the other one. This one's just a tiny bit tight. They can run good even though the gauge is tight, because the wheels are wider than what they need to be. So I actually want it a little bit tight. That helps you go through switches and curves. Yeah, still a little bit tighter. Daniel Cordapassi would be proud. Oh yeah, now this is good. I'll show you what it looks like on the rail. So that gives you a little bit of slack on the sides. Makes it easier to stay on the track and to go around curves. Even though these have a tendency of being a little noisy, I don't put any type of oil on the trucks and the side frames. That it just attracts more dirt, so I don't feel that that's such a good idea. They have 2 pins that hold them together, plus they have to be in their wheel. And then check it. Feels pretty good. Look at how good the side frames look now that they're clean. That was really worth it. Perfect. So I'll do the other side off camera. All right, these I just cleaned them with my fingers, and that's very good. So we'll start with the motor, and then also I bring the worm gears in at the same time. The reason why I'm being very careful to keep the order that everything was in is because this one is so quiet because it's got a few miles on it. So that does answer one of my questions, because my other engines, they look pretty new. So what that tells me is that even though they're noisy when they're new, as they age, the noise subsides. Then be careful with these 2 little engine cradles. Make sure that they go to the exact place where they're supposed to go. That's worth taking the extra time. And I'll do the other side for the bearings. Yeah, I line up the bearings first, and then I line up the 2 little engine cradles. Just have to do them one at a time. So then I can go back and do the 2 little engine cradles. So that you want them in their space 100%. that looks pretty good. Actually, what I do at this point, I will run it on the bench just to make sure that nothing's interfering. No, there's no noise and nothing's touching. So you want to use very low setting for your power pack. So that sounds awesome. I can bring in the other frame half. Don't forget your little insulators. I mean, my Bachmann SD40 ran without them last week, but I think you need them. And then I bring in the other side. Well, that went back together great. So I'll just put the two screws. I'll just start them. I won't tighten them yet. And the purpose for that is so everything doesn't pop out again, which I don't want that. But I just get them started, I don't tighten them yet. And then I'll bring in my two trucks. Then just make sure everything's lined up properly. And then the front one. Use gravity as your friend, and now I can tighten it. This one's not in its proper spot. That can't be good. Very good. Now I'm going to try it on the bench again. Still runs nice and quiet. Both directions. So that's good news. The only way to know for sure if it runs right is to go try it on the track. All right, let's see what we got. It can crawl and it can move pretty good. It's pretty quiet. That is pretty satisfying. I would say I'm done, except I still have to do something about couplers. So we'll start with this one. I have to pass that under here like so. I'm always trying to be careful. It will squeeze in there, but I want to take my time and be gentle. So I looked at my boxes. I found a little micro train coupler that's going to fit right in there. Micro trains made in the USA. I've got to bring in that screw. That Look at that, I'm going to be using gravity as my friend again. Somebody suggested tweezers. I have not been lucky with tweezers. I had screws fly out from the tweezers. So maybe on occasion tweezers can be good, but not always. It's not been magic for me. Although, you know, I should get a nice set. I watched the other guys. Some guys have really good success with tweezers. Actually, that looks awesome. I'm gonna whip out my old KD micro-trimmed height gauge and we'll see how good I did. It's a little bit on the low side, but it's gonna make the grade. That's a little bit on the low side, but that's gonna work. And then for the B unit, I have to make a thing like that. I do have a parts one, but I think I'm gonna just make my own part for this. That, if you pry very gently with your screwdriver, you can get it out. I'm gonna see if using some sheet styrene I can make a new coupler box like this. I think I can. I think I could make it out of two parts. One part that does this shape and the other part that does that shape. For a cheap source of styrene, I use these old department store gift cards. They've been working good for me so far. So I just started by cutting out the outline. I'll start digging it out with my scissors. I think I'm gonna make it out of 3 parts in total, but this is gonna be the start. Then, using at times my scissors and at times my cutting wheel with my Dremel, I'm gonna refine it. I'm gonna cut out a little sliver here for the bottom. That's gonna come back later. And it's gonna be a bar that holds my coupler together here for a support. So I'm gonna be careful to manage that. The Dremel, it's like a hot knife through butter. You really have to stay in control of it. That looks pretty good. I'm keeping that. Then I just need a middle section that's going to go here. And it doesn't really have to be all that fancy. Just a square. That's just going to glide in here. Like so, and just be a filler. I had to empty out the middle section here because I was hitting the rivet for the door there. I was hitting the rivet for this. So I just had to empty this out. No big deal. I'm going to do the same thing to my filler part. I'm going to make a third part that exactly mimics the first one. Now I got my 3 parts. And I'll put them all together. And then we'll test fit it. just to be sure. Actually, I'll put them in one at a time, just to be sure. So that goes over here, and that goes over here. So basically does the same job that the other coupler holder did. But I want to be 100% sure I'm happy with everything. But that's looking real good. Yeah, fits right in nice and straight. Perfect. So I'm going to use some CA glue and glue all three together now. The little middle one wasn't quite thick enough. If I had made a plastic one, it would have been too thick. So I made a cardboard one. I'm going to glue all this together. So I tested the height a little bit there. My coupler box should sit right on this ledge here. If I can have that right on there, that would be perfect. I gave this plenty of time to dry. I'm going to set this in place, measure everything very carefully, and then I'll come in and make an opening for my coupler box. I put my little bar on top there, so that should hold my coupler nice and snug, so I can do some testing. I do want to make sure that I got the height perfect. That should hold my coupler there. That fits pretty snug. So now I can test the height just to make sure. So that's exactly what the coupler height gauge is good for. I can see my coupler is too low. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reverse the box around, my coupler box. So that looks pretty good. I'm gonna glue in the coupler box and that'll be it. Well, that looks pretty good. I've been watching a couple of guys, they make I think 1/12 scale RC cars and boats and excavators. They make them out of PVC pipe. It's really something to watch. So they fabricate everything. I guess some of it's rubbed off. I'm going to put some black paint on it, and that will be that. Once the paint is dry, it looks like the factory one. Just about. That was a very satisfying little project to do, actually. Looks almost like the factory one. All right, now I need to clean this little guy. It's the same thing. It's gonna do it a lot of good. I'm gonna remove. Actually, I'm gonna do it a little bit of a quicker way. I'm not gonna remove the whole thing. I'm just gonna loosen the screws, and that's gonna give me enough slack to get to the trucks. And then I'll be able to clean that. And I'm memorizing the order, but I pretty much do the same process as the other one. Yeah, these I just clean with my fingers. That usually is good enough. And then we'll pop these open. These I spend most of my time cleaning because usually you don't get electrical pickup because the wheels are dirty. So I spend most of my time on this. focus that. There, you can see there's a little bit of hair on here. So that I'll take a minute to remove that. And then there's a bunch of dirt on the wheels. There's a lot of lubrication on this. I put no lubrication at all on these. You can see there's a bunch of dirt, so that can't be good. So I'm going to do the exact same process that I do all the time, and I'll put them back together. Look at that, my rag is turning black. That's just from one wheel. I mean, they over lubricated this. That is crazy. So with the dish soap that removes some of this lubrication, I wish it would remove all of it. So that's what I do anyways, that helps. And then I also have to look into these contact strips. They are nasty. Look at that. So I'll get in there with my screwdriver and I'll remove as much of this as I can. You don't want to put a lot of torque on this, just enough to get the dirt out. But yeah, it must have been hard for the engine to run with all that. So these I don't wash. These I don't wash with my toothbrush, but I make sure that they are as clean as I can get it. So there will be still a little bit of lubrication left in there, but I don't think you really need it. But I don't wash them. That should still run fine. Let's put it all back together. Yeah, when I did my should I lubricate my axle video, I didn't use these because that would have been a long train to install these. They are good pullers. I would have been forever oiling cars or using the graphite grease. But that was fun. That was a good video. Good for me anyway. A bunch of people did watch it. So that feels pretty good. I'm just going to add my side frames. And then that should be good to go. Normally, I would put a drop of oil on the bearings for the worm gear, but this one, because everything was so over lubricated, probably doesn't need it. I am going to test it on the bench though. Run super quiet. It's the time to do it, because if you need to do something to it, everything's easily accessible. So we'll just put the trucks back on there. So I'll just bring these back in. Use gravity as your friend. And then this one I can tell something's off. Then make sure they have enough wiggle room. And then we can retighten everything. And that will be sweet. I'll check it again on the bench, just to make sure. Yep, that runs fantastic. And this way also runs fantastic. Now we're ready to put the shell back on. Don't forget your little fuel tank. There's two notches over here for the air tanks, for the braking system. Just make sure all your contact strips are lined up properly. There is a front and a back to it. On the frame it's obvious, the cab's here. On the shell, well, there's a very nice fan for the cooling system that goes towards the back. And that's it. Should go right back together. Sweet. And now it's time to run some trains. So if you think you'd like to own these, I'll be putting up for sale on my website. And check back often, because I do revise the pricing and I add some more stuff. So if they don't sell right away, I'll be revising the pricing next week. So look at the coupler height. So beautiful. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.